Chapter 1730, 1. White Elephant Army. Meng Yuanjun shrugged helplessly and smiled. Well, although the development of things is somewhat beyond my expectations, but dash. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Even if it is really done, it doesn't matter. The important thing is that you have to protect your own safety. Zhang smiled faintly. Okay, I understand. After ending the call, Meng Yuanjun leaned back in the chair and rubbed his fingers, and then he couldn't help laughing. Chaos, Zhang. This is really an unpredictable guy. He raised his legs and put them on the table. Blood return always makes people feel more comfortable, which is why many people like to put their feet up when they sleep. But it's really surprising that things have developed to this point. Bharata has always been conceited, especially after the end of the world. He has been self-centered in his own little land, and he has gradually begun to look down on everyone. Meng Yuanjun still remembers that the Garudas broke into the southwest region and coveted the Nash kingdom last time. And this time, I didn't expect them to be even more excessive, and they actually directly and openly got involved in the territory of the southwest region. As the leader of the most powerful region of Huaxi state, he certainly couldn't ignore what was happening. And Zhang happened to appear at this time, becoming a sharp knife that pierced the enemy's heart. As for whether the problem really expanded, that was a joke. After all, the number and magnitude of the god of love and death are not on the same level at all. In the end times, without the constraints of order, if Bharata dared to launch a full-scale war, then Huaxi state, which was in a morally advantageous position, would directly come to wash the ground with a wave of god of love and death. Isn't this too much? Chaos, don't let us down. Let's make a big fuss. Meng Yuanjun said with a smile, secretly looking forward to it. After Zhang killed his way into the holy city of Bharata, the news spread to the top leaders of the entire Huaxi state almost at the same time. Northwest region, Chang'an City. Li Changgong was wearing a green military uniform and a medical bandage. His basic injuries had long been healed by the medical cabin, but such a serious injury would affect his vitality, and he still needed to recuperate for a period of time. Looking at the situation reported by his subordinates, Li Changgong held a cigarette in his mouth and cursed. Hundun, this bastard, actually went out to show off alone. It's really annoying. Although he said so, it was difficult to hide the smile on his lips. No matter how much he disagreed with Zhang, as a soldier, the blood in his heart was hard to cool down. Seeing others stand up for the country and face the strong enemy, he still admired him in his heart. But if that person was Zhang, he was not willing to admit it. The top leaders of other major regions also reached a tacit understanding at the first time and prepared for a full-scale war. They occupied the moral high ground in this matter, especially since all major forces in the international community sent people to support them. Bharata's move was equivalent to not taking all the participating countries seriously, so other countries would certainly not speak for Bharata. In the middle of the 21st century, it was originally an era of information warfare and intelligent warfare, but because of a global freeze, the way of war returned to its original state. Sending troops on a large scale and fighting across the long snowfield is undoubtedly not feasible. However, using intercontinental missiles and carrying the death of love for deterrence is still a trump card. In the Jiangnan region, Zhang also contacted Zhang and said, if you need our remote support, please speak at any time. The relationship between Zhang and Zhang is very delicate. Although he was not happy with Zhang stepping on his head, he needed Zhang power to maintain the peace in the Jiangnan region. So when facing foreign enemies, he did not hesitate to take out the death of love. Okay, then I would like to thank Zhu Shuai, Zhang said with a smile. After arriving in Canon City, he has received many calls from senior officials of various regions. There is no exception in their attitudes. They are all telling Zhang that we will support your action without limit. Rarely, Zhang felt a trace of warmth in his heart. He looked at the solemn Canon City and smelled the strong smell of gunpowder from a distance. On the city wall, teams of Bharata soldiers were ready. Zhang narrowed his eyes. He thought of the tragic scene he had seen in the southwest region. In order to make the people of the southwest region surrender, the people of Bharata also killed many people. Facing them, Zhang Yi would never be merciful. Liu, anyone with any weapons in their hands today will be treated as a soldier. Liu's eyes turned cold, and he nodded silently. Now, it's already a state of war. Zhang Yi has his own bottom line and will not kill innocent civilians. But anyone who holds a weapon against him is considered a soldier. To participate in the war, you must be prepared to be killed. Let's go. Zhang Yi's figure disappeared instantly. The next moment he appeared at the top of the entire Canon city, looking down at the entire holy city of Bharata. Karma Khan and other aliens sensed Zhang Yi's appearance, because Zhang Yi did not hide his powerful strength at all. He appeared in the sky, and the whole sky became dim. Everyone looked up and saw a huge black vortex. Slowly under the sky it spread out like a drop of thick ink dropped into a pool, spreading rapidly. The black vortex covered almost the entire sky of Canon City, and the terrifying power made many soldiers sweat in their palms. Demon. Is that the demon from Huashu Kingdom? May Vishnu bless us. Let us kill the demons smoothly. Some soldiers have begun to pray. Seeing this scene, Karma Khan showed a crazy smile in his eyes. Is this the chaos of Huashu Kingdom? You dare to come to the great Bharata Kingdom? I will kill you and sacrifice you to the main god Vishnu. At this time, in the Jagannath temple, Mahara, who had regained his human form, was covered in blood and staggered to the statue of Vishnu. He knelt down devoutly, put his hands together, and began to pray. Bharadism has more than 1 billion believers, but not everyone can borrow this power of devout faith. Only one kind of person can use it, and that is the most devout ascetic monk. Mahara was just such an ascetic. After he prayed for a long time, a golden light shone from the statue onto his body, allowing his injuries to heal quickly. My injuries are healed, but my strength has not increased. It must be because my ascetic practice is not enough. Mahara gritted his teeth, and he stretched out his left hand and tore his right arm off. Chapter 1732. Karma Khan. Mahara tore off his right arm. Blood splattered in the hall. The scene was extremely bloody. Mahara felt that the power in his body became stronger. No, this is not enough. Great Lord God, please give me more power so that I can defeat the demons from foreign lands. Mahara endured the severe pain. He obviously had a strong physique, but he deliberately twisted his legs. He did not use a knife, but twisted them directly so that he could bring the greatest degree of pain, so as to achieve the ultimate asceticism. Finally, he took a look at his only remaining left arm, put his arm in his mouth, and bit it hard. Sizzle, a tearing sound rang out, bones broke, and muscles broke one by one. His limbs were finally completely torn off, and only the torso was left of his whole body. But at this moment, the golden light of the Vishnu statue on the shrine was shining brightly, and a power transformed from extremely pure faith poured over his body. Yes, that's the feeling. My ascetic practice has finally been recognized by the gods. In the main hall of the Jagannath temple, Mahara's crazy laughter was heard. Only people in the orthodox Bharata religion would understand how lucky he was. Because countless ascetics have difficulty getting a response from the gods throughout their lives. Zhang Yi stood high in the sky, and the divine refining in his hands turned into 2 dark silver guns. The dark power of the void surged like viscous ink, dyeing the divine refining into a dark color. Falling stars. As soon as Zhang Yi finished speaking, the muzzle suddenly ejected a dense barrage of bullets. In the huge black vortex, the power of the void poured down like a rainstorm. In an instant, the entire area of the center of Canon was shrouded in black rain. Karma Khan snorted angrily, and the sound spread in all directions. White flames suddenly lingered on his body, and a mysterious red pattern condensed on his forehead. His body expanded rapidly, and in an instant he turned into a 100-meter-tall white bull, roaring angrily at Zhang Yi. Moo! He roared, and a white flame gushed out of his nostrils toward the sky, turning into a huge dragon of fire. The Dense black void power fell like raindrops. The white dragon of fire was about to soar into the sky and burn Zhang to death, but after touching the dark power, it was extinguished instantly as if it had encountered ice water. For the first time, a look of shock appeared in the eyes of the bull that Karma Khan had transformed into. His attack was actually resolved so easily, but time did not wait for him to react, because the falling stars that covered the entire city had already come down with a bang. There was no sound in the air, and after the black rain fell, everything was swallowed up wherever it passed, including the barriers set up by the aliens and their bodies. Those soldiers who were originally so brave and high-spirited didn't even have time to dodge. They were just touched by the star's pendant, and their bodies disappeared inexplicably. The city's buildings, human bodies, alien abilities, and powerful technological weapons. Everything seemed to be drawn on paper with a pencil. And Zhang Yi's star's pendant was like a brush soaked in ink, which easily wiped out everything with a single stroke. The sound soon rang out. It was a desperate wail. The star's pendant that covered the entire urban area avoided the residential area and only targeted the soldiers and aliens in the main battlefield. Its density and strength were beyond their imagination. When the silver armor descended on various regions, it brought a sense of oppression from absolute strength. And now Zhang Yi, who has reached the bishop level, descended on this city that has not experienced the baptism of war and brought despair. After just one round of attacks, more than 80% of the soldiers in the entire Canon city disappeared. No bones were left, and they were completely integrated into the world of nothingness. Karma Khan faced the dense black rain, watching the soldiers around him die continuously. He turned into an angry bull, roaring to go fight Zhang Yi. But just the black rain fell on him, and his body, which should have been indestructible, was cracked and blood and flesh flew everywhere.
Moo.
Karma Khan's eyes showed a panic at this time. He was obviously an Epsilon-level alien, and was already one of the top echelon strongmen in this world. How could someone be so powerful that he could be defeated easily?
Boom.
At this moment, the south gate of Canon City was directly broken through. A black airflow broke through the gate, spanning thousands of meters, cutting all the soldiers along the way into pieces. Liu rushed in directly from the main gate. Zhang Yi's attack only covered an area of Canon City. There were still a large number of soldiers and aliens guarding other places. It was impossible for Zhang Yi to waste too much energy to deal with these miscellaneous soldiers. So Liu appeared, standing on the main road of Canon City, holding a dragon roar, with a cold and terrifying look in her eyes. She had seen the tragic situation in the southwest region, so she had no mercy on these aliens and soldiers. Kill her. Kill that woman. On the broken wall, a soldier of Bharata stood up and pulled the trigger at Liu with a roar. The bullets fell on Liu, making a ding-dong sound, but how could such ordinary weapons penetrate the armor made by Lieu? Bharata's soldiers were even equipped with a large number of thermal weapons from the previous generation, and they rarely used weapons against aliens. Liu's figure disappeared in the air like a ghost, and when she appeared again, she appeared above the wall. Shwa! A knife slashed out, as if someone used the space as a canvas and swung a heavy stroke of ink. The dark knife light that spread for several kilometers directly shattered thousands of soldiers. The whole city of Canon was instantly filled with a strong smell of blood. Karma Khan looked at the holy city that he had guarded for 3 years and turned into this. His eyes were instantly filled with bloodshot, and his heart was bleeding. Damn demon. Vishnu will not let you go. You must pay for your evil deeds and fall into hell forever. The divine energy in Zhang Yi's hand condensed into a long sword. He looked at the angry and roaring bull without saying a word, but silently used the power of the void to condense on the blade. The divine energy was so dark that it seemed to be able to swallow everything, even light. Moo. Karma Khan's forehooves dug the ground fiercely, and after a few run-ups, he actually rushed towards Zhang Yi in the air. Zhang Yi looked at the bull below with cold eyes, and waved his right hand lightly in the air. A black light curtain stretched from the sky to the ground, shattering the clouds and dividing the sky in half. It also neatly split Krama Khan's body in half from the middle. Chapter 1733. It's really regrettable. Blood fell from the sky of Canon City like a rainstorm. Boom. Boom. Karama Khan's body fell heavily to the ground, smashing many buildings. The body that was once as majestic as a god now turned into two huge pieces of flesh and blood. At this moment, the confidence of everyone in Canon City completely collapsed. They wailed, shouted, and some began to kneel down and pray to the gods. But all this was of no use. Zhang Yi's voice echoed above the entire Canon City. Everyone put down your weapons. Anyone who intends to resist will be killed without mercy. Liu had also wiped out a large number of soldiers who were still resisting at this time, and the dragon in her hand kept dripping blood. She was not keen on killing, but this time it was Bharata who was the first to do the evil, so they had to suppress it with tougher means. Otherwise, with the personality of Bharata and other people who only remember food and not beatings, they will sooner or later think about the land of the southwest region. Put down your weapons. Liu stood on the avenue and shouted in a deep voice to the people below. The soldiers looked at Liu with awe. Some of them slowly put down their guns because of fear, then knelt on the ground and crawled obediently. The hard bones have all turned into corpses. Zhang Yi was very satisfied with the situation in front of him, and his eyes looked into the distance. On a high mountain, an ancient temple stood on the top of the mountain. That was the Jagannath Temple, one of the three major temples of Bharata. Zhang Yi activated the ability of Space Shuttle and rushed there quickly. Maharaja did not escape, so he could only be hiding there. Zhang Yi said that everyone who set foot on the land of Huashu must die, and he must do it. After killing Maharaja, disarming the entire city of Canon, and taking over the Jagannath Temple, he can successfully complete this mission. Zhang Yi is very measured in doing things. Behind his seemingly arrogant appearance, he has his own calculations. If he really wanted to make a big fuss in Bharata, he would not have an advantage as an away player. If he was surrounded by the aliens in Bharata, he would not be able to guarantee 100% safety even if he entered the White Bishop's territory. At this moment, taking away the Jagannath Temple would be no less than the Fenglangjutsu of the champion Marquis back then, and it would be a slap in Bharata's face. Zhang Yi arrived in front of the Jagannath Temple a moment later. At this moment, he felt a strong momentum bursting out from the temple. He sensed a very familiar power. Is this the power of faith? Zhang Yi had only sensed this feeling from the master of the burial of the Tantric sect. And that kind of power, Zhang Yi has been unable to explain so far. What exactly is it? The only thing that can be confirmed is that it can give people the ability to surpass their own upper limit. Boom! A deafening sound rang out from the temple, and the ancient temple door began to shake, and the dust fell. A huge body crawled out of the temple. It was a huge black-striped snake, but now it had some creepy blood on its body. Maharaja, after being blessed by the power of faith, became even more powerful. However, he was no longer half human and half snake. He abandoned his hands and feet and completely turned into a big snake. Only his face was still embedded in the head of the big snake. His eyes were a strange gray. When he stared at Zhang Yi felt uncomfortable. Roar. The big snake and Maharaja's face opened their mouths at the same time and made a strange long cry. Zhang Yi felt his head roaring, as if his soul was about to be pulled out of his body. Zhang Yi frowned and calmed his mind to prevent it from disturbing him. When the big snake saw Zhang Yi, it actually flew into the air and rushed towards him with its huge mouth opened. Zhang Yi's mouth curled up with a sneer. It seems that you have become stronger now. But no matter how strong an ant becomes, it is just a stronger ant. He pressed his hand downwards and then squeezed a hard God's domain purification. The area centered on Maharaja suddenly collapsed in the middle. Crack. Maharaja's body was bound in place, and his bones kept making sounds of being squeezed. Then, puff. The body of the snake was directly torn apart, and thick blood gushed out from hundreds of cuts. Maharaja's face, which was embedded in the snake's head, twisted in pain. How could this happen? I should have been blessed by the gods. Zhang raised his eyebrows in surprise. I didn't die. Maharaga practiced the ancient yoga of Bharata, which could displace his bones, joints, and even internal organs, so even if he suffered a powerful attack, he could reduce the damage by shifting these parts. Zhang was too lazy to waste time with him, and directly pulled out the god-refining gun and pointed it at his head. The power of the void quickly condensed, and then a black light that penetrated the sky, and the earth was born between the two as Zhang pulled the trigger. Star Canon. Maharaga instinctively felt the danger of death when facing this attack. The terrifying energy contained in the black beam of light, even from a distance, had already made his tough skin like steel sting. He tried his best to twist his body, trying to remove this force. But the star-piercing cannon went straight through his head. No matter how his body twisted, its trajectory was within Zhang Yi's prediction. The black star-piercing cannon was like a pair of iron pliers, piercing his body from front to back, like a skewer of roasted snake meat. Tisk. Zhang Yi showed a disdainful sneer at the corner of his mouth. Is this the so-called blessing of Vishnu? Your own strength is not strong enough, so you only know how to use external objects. The idea is good, but it's a pity that you still ignore the gap in strength between you and me. Ever since Zhang Yi saw these Bharata aliens, for some reason, he always felt a strong sense of superiority from these people. It seemed that no country in the world could be as powerful as their country. At first, Zhang Yi thought they were really strong and was a little cautious. Only then did he understand that this was just a blind faith born from not having seen the world. Is the strongest of the 8 tribes of Bharata only at this level? It's really a pity. Zhang Yi collected the body of Maharaga and looked up at the ancient temple. He raised his right hand, and the dimensional door instantly opened in front of the temple. Boom! Under the pull of the huge force, the temple shook violently, as if it was pulled out of the ground by a giant hand. Chapter 1730. 4. Let me help you. At this moment, a golden force revived above the temple and began to confront Zhang Yi's space. Zhang Yi sneered. Although he didn't know the nature of the power of faith at this time, he knew its origin. In the final analysis, it was the special power formed by the weak beliefs of countless believers. It was similar to the thoughts of the mind readers. It was not some weird thing. But Zhang Yi could even kill their 8 tribes, let alone such an ethereal thing. He fired directly at the temple. Because he didn't want to destroy everything, he still retained some of his strength. But even so, the whole temple was almost destroyed. The huge temple was pulled out from under the earth by Zhang Yi. The huge temple has been entrenched in Canon City for many years and has long become a belief in the hearts of the locals. At this time, they could only watch their temple being taken away, and wailing and crying resounded throughout the city. Liu held a knife in her right hand, her eyes wandering around the whole city. She would mercilessly kill anyone who dared to resist. The entire temple was extremely huge, slowly rising into the air and flying towards Zhang Yi's space. At this moment, a little light appeared in the sky, and a whistling sound rang in Zhang Yi's ears. The intelligence system immediately warned Zhang Yi. An armed fighter group is approaching, and 16 missiles are about to attack. In fact, Zhang Yi had already noticed their arrival without the warning of the intelligence system. Zhang Yi slowly turned his head and looked at the sky in the distance, while collecting the Juggernaut temple. More than a dozen missiles dragged their burning tails, and had already come near Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi waved his hand casually, and those missiles fell into Zhang Yi's space, and when they appeared again, they had changed their direction and flew towards the huge fighter group behind. In the sky, the wings of the armed helicopters hummed, and there were fighters hovering in the sky, and all weapon systems were aimed at Zhang Yi's body. But they didn't expect that the dozen powerful missiles not only did not cause any harm to Zhang Yi, but instead flew back to them quickly. No, run. The fighter pilots panicked and pulled up the joystick desperately, but their reaction speed was faster than the missiles. Boom! There was an explosion in the sky, and a raging flame burned. The wreckage of nearly 10 fighter planes fell from the sky, and the bodies of the pilots turned into ashes. I thought you were not coming. Zhang smiled faintly. But I didn't expect that you really dared to appear in front of me like this. Zhang thought of this and sighed. After all, am I still underestimated? In fact, it was not that Barada underestimated him, but they did not have Zhang Yi's ability information and did not know how strong he was. Moreover, even if they knew that he was very powerful, not everyone was like him, who could cross the land of Barada and rush to the battlefield in the shortest time. The current armed fleet is the fastest assembled force of Barada. From the moment Mahara sent out a distress signal, they set out on the road. But they didn't expect that before they arrived, not only Mahara was killed, but also the entire holy city of Canon was destroyed, and even their temple would fall into Zhang Yi's hands. Chaos. You openly invaded Barada. Are you going to start a war between Huashu and Baradas? A voice came from the sky. It was the words of Chamar, an officer from the Barada Combat Command Center. There was a blazing fire in his eyes. When he saw the current situation in Canon City, he could hardly contain his anger. Especially when he saw that Zhang Yi even wanted to take away their holy city temple. He was so angry that he wanted to rush to the spot and fight Zhang Yi to the death. This is a war crime. I ask the World United Organization to try you. You blasphemed a great civilization and invaded a country that loves peace and freedom. Only by sending you to the gallows can I relieve my hatred. Shamar's angry roar echoed in the sky. After hearing Shamar's voice and seeing the powerful group of armed fighters, the people of Canon City had hope in their eyes. Our troops are here. Great, this hateful invader will definitely be killed. The great Barada troops are the best in the world, and no one can defeat them. Zhang Yi couldn't help but sneer when he heard Shamar's roar. He did not slow down the speed of taking over the Juggernaut Temple and said sarcastically, "Some shameless thing seemed to have forgotten who started the war first, who first let the troops step into foreign lands and enslave the people of other countries. Everything I did today was a counterattack out of justice and peace. It is a punishment that must be done to you for the sake of world peace." Shamar's eyes widened. No. The two situations are completely different. We are just temporarily helping you manage that land. After all, after your Huashu country experienced the war with the underground civilization, it is no longer able to maintain regional stability. I, Barada, naturally have to take on the responsibility of being the regional overlord. Zhang Yi laughed. What a coincidence. I also think that you have too many soldiers in Barada, which is not conducive to struggle. So, I will help you optimize some of them reasonably. This is all out of love and peace, for the sustainable development of your Barada. You must understand my painstaking efforts. Zhang Yi's eyes became dark and his voice became cold. If anyone stops me from helping you and making you happier, it means that the optimization of the population is not in place. Then my work has to continue. Who can't say nonsense on the scene? The Juggernaut Temple has been submerged in Zhang Yi's dimensional gate. In the city of Canon, there was a wailing sound. Those devout believers were extremely desperate. The temple they trusted all their lives, and the temple blessed by the three phases god was actually robbed by a foreigner. This shook their lifelong beliefs. Shamar's eyes were bloodshot, and the senior officials of the entire command center also shouted angrily. Damn chaos! You blasphemed the gods. You can't atone for your sins even if you die. Kill him. You must kill him. Take back the Juggernaut Temple, and never let him take our holy temple back to Huashu Kingdom. Once Zhang Yi successfully leaves here today, it will be a huge shame for their entire Barada. It will even be no less than the war that ended at the speed of light a century ago. Kill. Chamar almost opened his mouth and roared crazily. All fighter planes opened the missile launch bays, and those high-yield missiles fired at Zhang Yi. The pilots didn't even have time to consider whether doing so would affect the civilians in Canon City. They had only one goal, which was to kill the man in front of them. Chapter 1735 The Prophet. In the sky, a dense mass of missiles dragged long tails and rushed towards the man standing in the sky. Liu saw this scene, and a look of compassion appeared in his eyes. Because until now, they didn't understand who they were facing. Zhang stood motionless in the sky. When those missiles flew towards him, his expression was extremely calm, and he just slowly raised his right hand. Die! The angry pilots roared. But the expected huge explosion did not happen. Those missiles did not even get close to Zhang and disappeared in the air very abruptly. The speed was too fast that time, and they didn't realize what happened at all. This time, they clearly saw those missiles disappear at once, without any ripples in the air. Pop! Zhang snapped his fingers, and all the missiles flew out of another dimension door in the different space. When they appeared in this world again, their trajectory had been changed. The missiles whizzed towards the fighter group. The senior executives of Barada and the fighter pilots who watched this scene were terrified. No, they couldn't believe their eyes. They had never seen such a strange ability before. But the missile was too fast. Even if they saw the missile flying towards them, they had no time to escape. Just when all the fighter planes were about to be destroyed, a golden light suddenly rose from the distant sky. Zhang felt a strange feeling in his heart. In his left eye, the light and shadows passed by in an instant. The fighter planes and missiles in the air seemed to be in a state of stagnation. The golden light became more and more blazing, like the rising sun on the horizon, covering the sky. Zhang turned his head and looked in that direction. He saw a man holding a golden umbrella walking slowly in this direction. He was standing on 7 golden steps. He was wearing luxurious gold ornaments all over his body, but his upper body was naked, revealing his muscular body. This was a very handsome man with a standard high-caste face, deep facial features, and even his skin was emitting a radiant glow. With a smile on his face, he walked over step by step with a golden umbrella in his right hand, which was gently rotating at a constant speed. The golden light was sprinkled from the golden umbrella, and it was it that blocked the fighter group and blocked the missiles.
Boom. Boom. Boom.
The missiles exploded one after another in the air, as if in slow motion, and the explosion became very slow, even giving people a feeling of weak power. But the storm that swept out slowly and firmly swept the city below. Time ability. Zhang recognized the other party's ability at the first time. As a dual-system ability user of time and space, Zhang perception of his kind is particularly obvious. And Yang Xinxin's voice also reached Zhang ears at this time. Brother, I recognize him. This person is the leader of the 8 tribes of Barada, the leader of the Heavenly Emperor. Yang Xinxin could also observe everything happening in the outside world in the shadow space. She looked at Emperor Shirtian, and her eyes were actually a little solemn. He also has another name, Anand Sharma. It's not surprising that Yang Xinxin knows Emperor Shirtian, because the man in front of him is so famous. When Yang Xinxin and Zhang analyzed the aliens in this world, they once proposed such a theory. Aliens have existed since ancient times, but the arrival of the era of great mutation has made this mutation common. However, before the end of the world, there were some people with abilities who had already awakened. They have unique talents. And in the end of the world, their abilities will also be greatly enhanced. For example, Ho Tu in Shengjing district. And this Emperor Shirtian is even more of a heavyweight, because before the end of the world, he was already a world-famous prophet. Barada prodigy, the most famous prophet in the 21st century, Anand. Compared with him, Ho Tu is just a controversial superpower. But as a prophet, Anand became famous at the age of 10 because he had accurately predicted many major events that would happen in this world. Even in his prophecy 10 years ago, he mentioned this doomsday covering the world. It is no exaggeration to say that Anand Sharma is the most famous person with special abilities in the world. Prophecy, person with special abilities in the time system. Interesting. Zhang had a smile on his face, but his eyes had become serious. Emperor Shirtian, the most powerful person in Barada, and also the rarest person with special abilities in the time system. These titles together deserve Zhang to treat them with caution. Emperor Shirtian walked slowly towards Zhang Yi on the 7 treasure golden steps, with a smile on his face. That smile was without any emotion, as if a god was facing all living beings. He glanced at Zhang Yi, and just one glance made Zhang Yi feel as if he was seen through. So that's it. Emperor Shirtian said this for no reason, and then slowly stretched out his hand to Zhang Yi. You shouldn't have come here. The sins you committed today can only be repaid with your life. Zhang Yi's mouth curled up slowly. Oh, really? But I'm sorry, there are too many people who want my life, and no one has been able to do it so far. Emperor Shirtian still smiled and said to him, Zhang Yi, do you think that as long as you want to leave, no one in this world can stop you? Zhang Yi frowned slightly when he heard Emperor Shirtian calling out his name. But he just smiled and didn't say anything. Emperor Shirtian laughed dumbly. He turned the world-honored one's Tianluo umbrella in his hand, stepped on the 7 treasure golden steps, and still whispered to himself. You come from a humble background, just a small person at the bottom of society, but you unexpectedly possess powerful supernatural talents. However, this does not change your nature as a small person. So you are sensitive, inferior, cowardly, and fearful. You use the door of space as a fortress, sealing yourself in a cage because you dare not face everything in the outside world. You don't love anyone and you don't trust anyone. You are cold, selfish, and blindly arrogant. The powerful power you suddenly gain makes you boast everywhere like a nouveau riche. This is why you came here. You have the ability of time and space, and you think you can enter and leave Bharata freely and safely. Indra's tone was gentle, but the words he said slowly made Zhang Yi's expression solemn.